What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Gravity the Beast. Welcome to the Big Cap. No bullshit.
We
Just
back.
conversations about
Back
passions,
again, people.
philosophies, and perspective.
Oh, you know it.
So, got the homies with me. Go ahead.
Real nigga Twan, you already know.
Mm-hmm.
So long, guys. It's your boy Bash.
Yup. So, we got an interesting topic today. A couple different topics, but something that's been on my mind, something I've thought about, and as I've started to grow and learn about different shit, it just sticks out to me, right? So, with this particular topic we're starting with, it's the idea of single mothers and single fathers and the differences between being raised by either one, the influences of the parent trying to compensate, and so on and so forth, right? So, we could each give our own perspectives, but the main thing that I heard or that stuck out to me, the quote, was that single mothers raise you in a way that helps you get by. They might tend to want you to be happy. Not to say that they don't want success for you, but they tend to raise you in a way that is more about just sustaining yourself. Whereas single fathers, they might tend to be more strict. They might tend to focus more on you being better than them, opposed to you just being able to take care of yourself. Now, a lot of people get offended when we talk about that because they make it seem like, oh, so you telling me a single mom doesn't want their kid to do well in life, they just want them to get by or whatever? Or are you saying just because a father is raising a child, the child is going to be successful? It's not that simple. But when I heard that quote, or it wasn't verbatim a quote, but when I heard that statement, it made me think, and I had to associate it to my life and look at how I was raised and see the influences and why I am the way I am. So, but before I even get into my personal opinion based on my life, like, what do y'all think on that? Like, first.
I mean, with that being said, like I was saying earlier before we started taping, you know, I lived a life where I had both my parents there,
Uh huh.
but I feel like my mom did a lot of the raising. I have older parents. My parents are currently, well, I'm 24, but they're currently in. I think my mom. I was just talking about this. She's like 57.
Mm.
My dad
Okay,
is 60.
Ooh.
Hold on, 2021. So we're talking. God damn, like my dad old, like
Yeah.
like
You already
I
said
think
60
Yep.
something
no,
shit.
yeah, my dad I think is about to be 68.
God
Oh, yeah.
damn.
Yeah.
Sound like my
So
uncle.
my parents were like 11, 12 years apart, but
Okay.
they were already older.
Yeah.
Like my dad was in his 40s, my mom was in her 30s when they had me.
Word.
So that had played a big part. So it's like my dad was very chilled and laid back because by the time I was born, my dad pretty much already lived his young
yeah.
life. He was pretty much going through the midlife crisis, if you want to say.
Yeah.
So my dad was very laid back, and then my mom, on the other hand, she did her best. She did what she could. There was a lot of things that I'm grateful for her. But I didn't live that whole. It's just my mom, no one else, or it's just my dad and no one else. I didn't live
Yeah.
that life because
Yeah.
even though I did see them every day, there was just times where it was like I felt like my dad wasn't there because I'd come home from school and if he's there, he's there. If he's not, he's not. If he comes home, he's on the couch watching TV. But my mom is doing her mom things,
Right.
regardless, and so I can easily say that yes, I was more raised by my mom, but I know it's not like anybody else's where they can say, "Oh, well, I just had one parent."
Yeah.
Even though I was told a lot of growing up, well, at least you got both your parents. I'm like, yeah, I do, but does
They
it
weren't
matter?
there.
Does
Yeah.
it matter if they're
Yeah.
not even
No, yeah.
a
If they're
part
not,
of your life?
if they're not in the same household, it is
Yeah.
different. Even though you can still parent without necessarily staying in a relationship
Right,
with
right.
your
Yeah.
child's other parent,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a difference.
Definitely.
What was your perspective, Twan?
See, I feel like that was like the perfect breakdown on how my life is. Cause like me and my mom and my dad were together till like I was about in the third grade,
Okay.
and then we moved out here. And
Okay.
he was always around, like took me to football practice and shit like that. But
Okay.
we didn't live together type shit,
Yeah.
and I didn't see him like that. But my mom always wanted me to be happy. Like when I was picking my major, she was like, "As long as you're okay with that." But my pops thing, even to this day, he wants me to be better than he was
Right.
or he is. He thinks I'm better than him, and he pushes me to be that.
Word. See, I think that's dope, right? Like from my perspective, right? So, My mom passed away when I was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
My dad had his own situation, so he wasn't around for most of my life. I might have, like, my early life especially, had some moments here and there where I might see him, but I never once spent the night at my dad's crib. Didn't really grow up around that side of the family. And I'm currently in the process of, like, reconnecting and trying to build those bonds. But, like, the majority of my life, or at least the first half, I was with my grandparents, right?
Yeah.
So my grandmother and my grandfather, and then at a later point, a little bit before I turned 13, I came out to live with my aunt. So immediately I think about the second half of my life where I'm like, okay, I have my aunt. Love her to death. She passed away also, but I love her to death, right? She always wanted me to be able to take care of myself, and she always went out of her way to teach us what she could. I remember asking for an allowance at one point in time. Now, yeah, I was a lazy kid always, but I would have been down to work if I were old enough to get a job or if someone would help me. But at that point, I'm just like, I like want to be able to get certain things or whatever. So she gave me and my little brother an allowance, right? At that point, she said, "Hey, your allowance is gonna be $10 a week, but I'm only gonna give you 8. You're gonna save $2 every week. Like no option. Like you're gonna save." And that kind of put it in my head to save. And then even at a later point, she was like, "Yeah, I'm setting you up with a bank account. I'm gonna just direct deposit the money into your account, but you're gonna set up a reoccurring savings every week. You're saving."
Nice.
Like it was like that, and because of her, when I really need something or if I'm planning on saving, it's simple. It's structure. It's like as soon as I got my, well, not my first job, but once I graduated high school and I was out for like a year and then I ended up getting a job, she was like, "Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna give you a few months, but you about to start paying rent." I mean, and I didn't feel no way about that because I knew, okay, yes, I'm an adult now and I have to do that. But she never,
Responsibility.
exactly, she always helped me understand responsibility. At all points, she was always there for me to do well. But then I remember maybe 2 years before she had passed away, I decided I was going to go to college. So I went and I was asking her, like, what do you want me to do? Like, not necessarily what major, but prior to me making a decision to actually go, I was like, what do you want me to do? Because I always knew I wanted to do music. I always knew I wanted to be successful in all these different things, but I never really had the structure, never really understood the steps to take in order to achieve those goals. And when I asked her what did she want me to do, she said, "I don't care what you do as long as you're happy and can take care of yourself." And that stuck out to me because at the time I felt empowered, and I still to this day I love that she said that to me because I had to go through what I went through in order to become who I am right now. But in the back of my head I'm thinking, okay, and I can't associate it to any particular male figure that has been in my life, but if I had been raised with a positive male role model, like in the house, authority figure, so on and so forth, I maybe that positive man, and not just any man, because you got a lot of deadbeats, but the ideal masculine figure would more than likely have had me do something specific. Maybe that person has a job and he's like, "Hey, come learn the tools and tricks of my trade, and you can start here. You can work this job, save money, and then do X, Y, and Z." Maybe like it could have been any particular thing.
Direction.
Exactly. More direction. And not that my aunt didn't want to do that for me, but I can't help but feel like her instinct was to make sure I was good, which all parents want to make sure their kids are good, but the masculine instinct tends to be like to do more, to attain more, to push harder, hit the top of the totem pole.
Yeah. Create something.
Exactly, right? And I had that naturally within me, but I didn't have the direction. Like when I have kids one day, I want to be able to say, regardless of what you want to do, I want to support you. But here's what you can do in order to get yourself to a point where you have that freedom. Here, do this job. And you can work this job, save money, and do whatever you want to do in your off time. Eventually, you can quit this job. I wish I had that mentality put into me, opposed to just take care of yourself, be happy. Now, a lot of the times, like masculine figures, father figures, tend to undermine happiness. They tend to not care as much about if you're happy as much as they care about how well you did in school, if you got a promotion or not. These things that might seem super trivial, but in a grand scheme of life, whether you could take care of yourself or not, it's big.
It's very important.
It's very important. And then
That's why you need both.
I agree. I do agree because you have to have both. But then the argument initially started where people were talking about the success rate of children from single fathers versus children from single mothers. So I have to actually get into this part because I haven't seen any of the numbers. I was just, as soon as I heard the topic brought up, it just made me think about my life. But the whole argument was that statistically, and again, I haven't seen none of these numbers. I just heard somebody say this shit, and then it just made me think. But statistically, the children of single fathers were more successful, graduated at a higher rate, better paying jobs, so on and so forth.
That's not something you would easily agree or think about.
Yeah, that's not something you would jump to because, but then also you could look at how the law tends to work, where fathers and single fathers especially tend to get the short end of the stick when it comes to the rights over a child, custody, so on and so forth, right? And we forget how we need both the masculine and the feminine. And then my grandmother and my grandfather. My grandmother was always the leading person in the house, I felt like. My grandfather was always there, but as a man, now that I've grown up, I could look and say
he didn't have a presence.
No, he had a presence, but I'm like, but what did he teach me? And I can't really think of anything. The one thing my grandfather did teach me as a child was stay aware of your surroundings. That's the one thing that he taught me that I held on to. But my god sister was the one that taught me how to ride a bike. My grandmother or my older cousin was the one that helped me with my schoolwork. You know, my babysitter was a woman. The person who took me to school was a woman. Most of my teachers in life were women. And I never really had any type of masculine figures. My uncle, one of the only people and prior to him passing away when I was younger, was in and out of jail. A lot of my male cousins, in and out of jail or dealing with whatever in the streets. And I never had that proper influence. And my grandfather, the one who should have been that first proper influence, me talking to him, I found out his father passed away when he was a kid. He was raised primarily by my great grandmother. So even my first masculine influence in life never had a proper masculine influence or a long-term masculine influence within his life. Now, even though he went into the military and he did X, Y, and Z, within the household, he is used to being taken care of by a woman, his mother, because his father wasn't there. And then he had sisters and cousins that were women. He had a brother, but that's his experience. So me growing up and being lazy like I have been for most of my life, and I still deal with laziness now, I can't ignore the fact that I'm lazy because he was lazy, and he's lazy because he was enabled. And then I look at my grandmother and I see why my grandfather chose her. Because she had both her mom and her father. They had like 11 or 12 kids. So she
where are we actually? I don't want to interrupt you.
It's right there. You can step up and grab it, Twan. But when we see these influences, it makes sense why my grandmother was the good head of the house, because she understood what it meant to be a woman. But she also understood what a proper masculine role model was. And even though my grandfather didn't necessarily step up in my life in the way he probably should have, my grandmother held it down. But that affected me in a certain way, because now I'm seeing masculinity from a woman, opposed to like seeing the primary feminine energy and focusing on that.
See, I feel like I got that from my grandfather, because when I used to live in Wilmington when my mom and my dad were together. But then we moved in with our grandparents. Yeah. Because it was better, Middletown type shit. And he was a pastor, but he always held it down. Like, he didn't play that shit.
Yep.
And I realize now that he's passed, it's like my grandmother is like her siblings. Her siblings be cursing and da da da.
Mhm.
You didn't see that, like talking back. Or he didn't play that.
Mhm.
It was a point where my grandmother had came back from her sisters.
Uh-huh.
He was like, "Yeah, I know you came from your sisters, but you're not about to come back talking to me like that." Like
Yeah.
he held it down. Like he was there, and like his presence was felt. It was his
Yeah.
way going. He was very disciplined.
Uh-huh.
Yo, we gotta go to Bible study 7 o'clock. Yo, get up. That's this, that, and the third. So I feel like I had that structure.
Mm. Well, what's your thoughts before I continue?
Well, I never had anything but more than my parents around.
Mhm.
You know, keep a long story short. You know, it was just me, my parents. I do have siblings, but they were older too,
Mhm.
so I didn't have them around. So I didn't have those type of other influences around me.
Mhm.
But kind of like how you say about your grandmother, about her kind of being the head of the household in a way, but
Make
knew
sure
about
talking to the mic.
the masculinity of things.
Uh-huh.
That was where my dad came in,
Mm.
and it's like he was there when he needed to be there. But at the end of the day, my mom always had that bigger effect.
Yeah.
But my dad was
I
very
feel the same way.
My mom was disciplined, but my dad was even more disciplined
Mm.
because he needed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because my thing is when it comes down to single moms raising their kids versus single dads.
Mm.
To me, a child is always going to need both.
Yeah.
If somehow the child doesn't have, let's say, a father, which, let's be honest, in most cases it is.
Yeah.
It's sad to say, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Single moms out there, they go through it. They raise their kid, they do it, but they go through it.
Yeah.
And that child was now raised without that certain masculine. Now, yeah, we all know moms can be tough because they'll do both jobs, but at the end of the day, it's always different why a father would need to say this.
Mm.
Like, if you go home and you're like, hey, you know, I had a bad day at school, the kids were bullying me.
Mm.
Think about what your mom has told you in the past, but think about what your dad could have told you.
You know, it's actually funny
Hey,
that you
yo.
bring that up, right? Because I look at my personality,
Punching on
and
this.
I grew up being very passive aggressive, right? And as an adult, I can look back and associate it to how I was raised, and particularly with women. And I can't blame this on all women because I also would see other people with single mothers who were taught differently. For example, as a child, I was taught if you get hit, tell a teacher. That
Never heard
I
that
feel
one.
like that scarred me. Because I'm not saying that I should have been a violent kid, a bully, fighting all the time, but being told when you get hit, tell a teacher. What you're telling me is not to learn to handle my own problems. You're teaching me to curl into a ball when I'm attacked and wait for somebody to save me. Like that is not something that you, especially a young boy. Like I'm not like you need to maintain a certain amount of discipline to where they don't get into fights and are not a bully. But to tell me as a child, if you get hit, tell a teacher. Well, now
That's
I'm
just gonna cripple him when it comes to a man.
exactly. I grew up always holding myself back, knowing what I want, but being told it was wrong. Feeling like I should defend myself, but I was afraid to, not out of fear of being hurt, but out of fear of repercussion at home. And that right
Yeah.
there messed me up because I got bullied at certain points and I took a lot of bullshit, and then that made me passive aggressive because I had to learn how to get my aggression out without being forwardly like harmful to anybody, and it held me back
Yeah.
in a big way. Like
I'm gonna really be honest on the podcast.
yeah,
7th grade, I got my first fight.
uh huh,
I got punched on in this fight.
Mm.
So I was like, yo, punch on, hit back type shit. I got suspended for 2 days.
Mm.
And I was on punishment.
yeah. See,
I got hella in trouble. So the next year, 8th grade, a niggas fuck with my food.
Mm. That's the worst thing you can do to somebody.
And I was like, yo, if you fuck with my food again, I'm gonna stab you with this pencil. Like, I was really drawing.
yeah,
I was drawn as a young boy. And he
Not after
did
that
it.
picture I saw in that yearbook, though.
Yeah. That shit funny as shit.
For real though.
But he did it, and I went, boom, like I fucked this shit up.
With the pencil?
Yes.
Oh damn.
You was serious?
Boom. Yeah, bro. I
God
fucked
damn.
this shit up. I was like, yo,
Bro.
bop. And he looked, and he was like, that didn't hurt. But he was crying. Like he started. I seen the tears.
Yeah.
Like I knew I fucked him up.
This
You
was
got in
what,
trouble for
7th
that?
grade?
But he ain't snitch.
Listen. And then he tried to do it again. I was like, you do it again, I'll stab you with this pencil.
Oh.
He was like, you won't.
Oh, don't hit the table. Yeah.
I stabbed him.
Oh.
Again, hard as shit. He get up and he punched me in my face about like 3 times. And then that's when Mr. Battle came up and grabbed him.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm not about to punch him back because I'm going to get suspended and I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, you already stabbed him at that point, though.
Yeah, but I was able to finesse. I was like, yeah, he was touching my food, so I poked him with the pencil. They was like, well, he's in a nurse's office with 2 holes in his chest.
What the fuck, bro? All right.
And I only got after school suspension.
Damn.
1 after school suspension, and I was in there with my niggas. It
Damn.
was like the lightest shit I ever got off. But I feel like I should have fucked him up.
I mean,
But I didn't, cause I didn't want to get in trouble with my mom.
see, I mean, that's different. I do feel you, though. I mean, because that goes into what I was talking about as far as the discipline aspect, because you do have that conflict. Like, men are naturally more violent. Like, we're naturally more physical and violent. So within that, your natural instinct is to go hard.
Yeah.
Now, you have to have that discipline and know how far to take it. But you have to have the understanding to be able to exert your feelings, exert your defense, exert whatever you feel you have to do to maintain who you are and your respect and your protectiveness or whatever. So I feel like a lot of those influences conflict with one another. But it really comes down to how having one or the other or having them together, masculine and feminine influences, affect us. And we really don't understand it. I feel like we don't acknowledge it as much as we should. I think there are tons of single mothers out there who have children and raise their children, male or female, to be great kids, successful, and those kids can get into other relationships and they know how to maintain their femininity or their masculinity. But on average, there is a negative effect from not having both. And I feel like most of the people I've spoken to can acknowledge the negatives.
My dad would have let me rock the smoothest way.
Yeah.
It's no way. My pop
That'd have been
would
different.
have dapped me
It'd
up.
have been
My pop
different.
would have dapped me up.
Yeah. That wouldn't have been healthy as a child because you could have grew
But I
up to
didn't
be
tell
more
my pop
violent.
shit. I didn't tell my pop shit like that because he ain't live with us. It was like,
Yeah. And then there you go. And that like that balance, because in the no, I'm good. In the actual
it was habit.
in an actual situation, you would have talked to your mother. She would have reprimanded you. You would have talked to your father. Maybe in that scenario, he would have been okay with it. But to have that balance and understand, like maybe your father would have said something different to you if he was with your mother and your mother was in the room during the conversation. And you have that balance of the relationship there. And that's important to have. Now, like when I think about my situation, I never really looked at it as having any detriment to me. Not until like I started learning about, red pill shit, male female nature shit. And now I could look back and be like, damn, maybe if I had a father in my life, a good, and I have to emphasize, it's not as simple as just having any man or any woman in your life. It's about being a responsible adult. It's about being good within your nature and being able to properly influence somebody growing up. It's not as simple. You could have both your mother and your father in your life and their balance is off. Them as people are fucked up and you don't grow up to be the type of child or the type of adult that you should be.
To be fair, there have been lives that have been more affected by both their parents than just having one parent.
Mm-hmm.
It plays a big part where, these kids live through this, and now there's times where you have a single parent, and then of course you live the life of having a step parent, because that also plays a part too. Because at this point now, your child is being raised by somebody who isn't their biological parent, and depending on the parent, it could mean multiple throughout your childhood. So it all ends. You look at the lives of the people who were raised by a single parent. They have a more percentage of not living the life, but they also have the hardest type of hustle, in my opinion. Because why do people do what they do now? It's all based off what their childhood was like. Everybody's childhood is what pushes them to be what they are more as an adult. Yeah. Because why do we do the things we do? Oh, shit. Whatever. I don't need it anyways. It's like we do it for a reason. When you told me what your dream was one day, that's all reflects on your childhood. It all goes back to because you feel like it would be different if you had your dad in your life. Everybody who was raised by a single parent will ask themselves the difference in life whether you had both your parents with you at that time. Yeah. Especially because I think you said yours left at a certain age, or your whole life.
Well, they broke up.
They broke up, right?
And we moved when we were our grandparents.
Gotcha.
And he stayed out Wilmington.
And so you stayed with your mom.
Yeah.
So you lived the no dad life pretty much.
Yeah.
To a point because he wasn't there. He didn't live with you.
It was like they didn't really stop fucking with each other till we was already grown. Like I was already in high school type shit. Yeah. It was like so he would be there and they'd be cool. Yeah. Hop back and forth type shit.
So let me ask y'all.
I used to go see him more when I was younger. Yeah. Like we'd go back, stay the weekend, stay at my grandparents type shit.
And that sounds healthy for the most part. Yeah.
And then it was not until for the people that they are, because my dad's mad niggerish. He's just a nigga, and he's hilarious too.
Hold up, shouts out to being niggerish. We out here.
Okay, am I allowed to go to say that one?
Yeah. Okay. Continue though, Tony.
Like I'm like my pop.
Yeah.
Dead ass. And so it's like.
So my next question was gonna be. What's your relationship like your dad today, like with him?
Nah, we cool. We cool to this day. He just hooked me up with some sneakers today. He bought me 3 pairs of sneakers.
Oh, that's dope.
Because he peeped that my Jones was old.
That's dope. See,
and it's like honestly, when you talk about that direction, I feel like if I would have listened to some of the shit he used to just tell me over the phone, I might be more successful right now. As far as business, stocks, buy your silver. Yeah. Yo, this joint went up. You see this? You need to look at that.
But since he wasn't in the household, it didn't hit you the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. That right there, I like. All right, like I said, I'm reconnecting with my dad right now.
You can see that.
But the one thing my dad taught me as a child was don't snitch.
Yeah. And it's like with me, it's like it's not that my mom didn't. My mom didn't do nothing wrong. She balled out. We had the biggest Christmases, shit like that. We was happy, but it was just her not being a man. That's it.
Yeah, but see, even in your scenario, right? I feel like it is important to look at the intricacies of that, but truly, I feel as though the real issue is people who lack completely. You know what I mean? Like, hypothetically, if your dad had passed away when you were in 3rd grade instead of breaking up with your mom at that point, right? That would have affected you way different. And then even if he did pass away at that point in time, your mother, did she have both her mom and dad? So that's different also because, like, she will have to step into that masculine role, but she still understands the dynamic.
It was one thing she told me. Yeah. It was just like, I just had to let rock. Yeah. Because I was doing whatever. I just lost a little job at Walmart and shit. And she was like, and I just we don't really be talking like that. I just be ghost. Yeah. And she was just like, I'm just trying to let you find your way type shit. That's all I can do. Yeah. See, and all right, go. And that was like the worst shit she could have said because at the end of I was on it's like, yo, I'm going to do what I want to do type shit. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do this, that, and the third. I don't need no help. I just got to figure it out as a man. That's how I honestly feel. And it's like when she said that, it was like she understood. And it was like she really couldn't do nothing.
See, I see why you say that, right? But and I want your opinion on this. Do you feel that could have been detrimental to you? Like, what do you think would have pushed you into your manhood quicker? Her saying what she said, or her saying like, "Yo, you fucking up. If you don't go get another job, I'm kicking you the fuck out." Because yeah, either way, you gonna do what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
But one is like, okay, I'm gonna let you do what you want to do, versus this is what you need to do. You want to do what you want to do. You could do that on your own. You could, because she puts you in a scenario where it's like, all right, yes, if you choose to work hard, you could choose to work hard, but you're still being coddled in a sense. You know what I mean? Whereas maybe a dad would have been like, "Yo, fuck out of here. If you think you gonna do X, Y, and Z, you can get the fuck out my house."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Now, and then you get kicked out the house. Well, yeah, you're doing what you want to do, but that might force you into shit, whether good or bad, because you might get kicked out the house and then you struggle. You living on the corner. You couldn't figure it out, but you wanted to do what you wanted to do as a man. That's all fine and dandy, but it's almost as though in that scenario the mom was allowing you to say like, fuck it, I'm just gonna take advantage. Do you see where I'm coming from when I say that?
Yeah.
That's a big reflection to look upon.
It is. And it's like, yeah, that's what it was. But me, from my perspective, it's like I knew that's what I had. I was already thinking that. It was
Yeah.
an acknowledgement. It was more of an acknowledgement to me. It's like she understands what I'm trying to do because I'm honestly trying to
Yeah.
find my own way. And I'm not, and I haven't forgotten. I'm getting my shit together and I'm trying to fix shit. And I'm doing it and I got to do it my own way.
Yeah.
And it's like she understood. And I was like, okay, I got to do right.
hmm and that right there, I feel like I've dealt with similar situations with my aunt. She would always tell me the same thing about like wanting me to do well, and I've always been a good talker and good at expressing myself. So with her, it wasn't like I could bullshit her. She knew when I was on some bullshit, but she knew when I was being
Yeah,
real.
I won't say nothing.
Yeah, well, nah, I would speak because I gotta speak. The only thing like they would try to like what's the term, gaslighting? Like, yo, my aunt used to do that shit, not in like a malicious way, but like within the black community, especially. I mean, within America, period, we're getting better at understanding mental health issues. But within the black community, it's hard to discuss depression. You know what I mean? So when I was younger, dealing with what I was dealing with, me being upset, me being hurt or sad or disappointed, even, mom would be like, "Oh, you look disgusted right now." My grandmother said that shit too at different points where it's like, since I'm not happy and I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with, instead of saying you look disappointed, you look sad, you look hurt, you rather say disgusted. Why? Because you tried to help me, and since I appeared not to be appreciative, you saying I look disgusted, and that's turning it into you. Now you're making me feel bad about how you feel, opposed to you acknowledging why I feel the way I feel.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's a side note. But within everything, I feel like it's important to really acknowledge how we affect one another, how we can help each other be successful. Like, I really think I would be a different person, and not just to say my father in particular, because he made choices that put him in certain positions that he wasn't in my life for the most part. So if I were to have my actual father in my life from zero to where I'm at right now, I don't know if I would. Maybe I would. He's a smart man. Maybe I would be better off having had a larger influence from him. But there's no way to say that. But I think it's important to really understand how we influence each other and have the conversation. Because saying single mothers want you to get by, it isn't saying that single mothers don't want you to do better than them. And saying that single fathers want you to be better than them doesn't mean that they
For
are
a mother,
super
your
focused
happiness
on that.
comes first.
I think that's what it boils down to. Yes, and a lot of people will probably disagree. Please comment. Tell us what you think.
When
But,
it comes
yeah.
down to that kind of like it's pretty deep emotions when it kind of comes involved in that.
Yeah.
Like so far, I've realized how different someone can be raised especially in my case where it was like different countries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like remind you, we were the only ones here. We are the only ones here.
Mm-hmm.
So being raised, that difference when you don't have certain parents,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of like Spanish single moms out there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they're not even from here, or they get split up in their country because
Getting over here.
yeah, and it's a big part too. I mean, you guys didn't have a dad in your lives, and it's can't
Yeah.
really
But see,
imagine it.
I wanna bring up a story too, cause like I had posted this on my Facebook, the whole single mothers want you to do better or want you to get by and whatever, right? And I had a person who commented and disagreed, and I went to reiterate my point, cause I'm not saying 100% that I just believe that, you know what I mean? But I feel like in general it tends to co-align with most people's experiences. I have a lot of positive female figures in my life. Most of the influences I've had in my life are females, which is why I feel like I've been held back in life to a point because I never properly learned how to be a man. But I had a guy who disagreed. So he said, and I'm going to add these to the video. And of course, he's going to be anonymous. He said, to clarify my position, I feel like a byproduct of what I'm talking about and don't really feel like I have anyone to talk to about it. I'm a government contractor. My father works for the government directly. The nepotism involved here is humiliating to me. I don't like what I do, but it's affording me resources I didn't have before. I tried doing my own thing for years and I never got anywhere. But now I'm in a position to do things that I'm actually interested in and make money from it. Anytime my dad talks to me, it's only about work and my potential there. I couldn't care less about a bunch of macho military guys babbling about radars all day. I don't have any emotional or intellectual respect for it. But he always talks about how I'm going to be a big wig or something someday. Yeah, great. Thanks for deciding for me. He has no idea what I'm really like, and it's not like he would listen anyway. It would just be met with more stubbornness and projection. Laying all that out felt good just now, like he explained that, and he said he's enjoyed my post recently, right? And I'll read my response first before.
Responses.
Yeah, right. Now,
That's pretty. It's pretty good on that one.
yeah,
Changing
that's
lives
pretty
in
good,
this bitch.
that's what he said. So I said, "Word, bro. I appreciate you taking the time, and I'm glad because I was hoping to meet someone with your perspective, and I definitely see that as an extreme, and I understand your point. I'm doing a video on this topic, and I'll definitely bring it up if you don't mind. I feel that fathers prioritizing success in that way has many pros and cons. I'm going to discuss it. I was raised by primarily women, so my perspective will be different as well." And then he said, just don't mention me by name, obviously, right? I'm not going to do that. And then he said, I should add too, I'm most definitely my mother's son in ways I'm sure my father doesn't ever want to acknowledge or consider. And then I also said that I'm not going to mention his name, but I said, if you don't mind me asking, how's your relationship with your mom, at least in relation to my original post? He said, I have an amazing relationship with her. I'm often more of a rock for her than my dad is, sadly. My dad's mother left the family fairly early on in his life. I think much of his negativity that happens between the three of us stems from that. And then I went into talking about my life and explain how it went. And I'll read through this whole thing just to get it up. I said, word, I feel that. It makes sense. Personally, I made that post because of a lot of statements I've heard within the Red Pill community. It kind of made sense to me overall. My mom passed away when I was 1. My dad wasn't around until I became an adult. I was raised by my grandmother and my grandfather, whose dad passed away when he was 12. And a few months before turning 13, I moved with my aunt who raised me until I was 20. And as I look at my life, I appreciate everything that was done for me. But when I started learning about male and female nature, I started to understand why I am the way I am. Understanding all the influences and how that can lead to success or failure in life. My aunt always said that she didn't care what I did as long as I was happy and able to take care of myself. And I appreciated it at the time. But now I see how detrimental that could have been. Or now I see how that could have been detrimental. And I associate that to her nature as a loving female/mother figure. Whereas if I had a positive role model, Whereas if I had a positive male role model growing up, I feel I would have been given more direction and led to a place of stability at an earlier age
Direction.
where I could step into things that I enjoyed without having to worry about having a decent life, if only financially decent. I spent so much time focusing on my goals and dreams instead of priorities first. And I see where my grandpa was affected by the lack of a father and overly influenced by his mom. I can see a father being controlling and overbearing, but maybe it's just me fantasizing about it. But I can't help but think having a success oriented father would be better in the long run. But being that I didn't have one at all, I can't speak on the negatives of having an asshole for one. And then but we ended up talking about the red pill and all that other shit, and the conversation changed. But I bring that up to say the thing that stuck out to me is when he said, I'm just now getting to a point where I have the resources to focus on the things that I really want to do.
Mm.
That I feel like is the key. Because regardless of if your dad's an asshole or not, regardless if he was negatively affected by his own mother leaving at an early age, yes, I could look at him and say, damn, you're probably an asshole, but you might treat women like shit because you resent your mother. That's something that you need to go to therapy for. But at the end of the day, he grew up with a father. He was successful. And what did he do? He made sure his son was successful. He was an asshole, so the son doesn't like him. Okay, there are pros and cons to it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you're at a point where you can focus on the things that you like. And I feel like that's it. That's really it. That's all that you need to think about when talking about your dad. Because even if you don't like him as a person, you love your mother. Your mother is still in your life. Like you said, you're more of a rock to her than your father. That's fucked up, but that's your reality. But your reality is also that you have a job, you have skills, a job that you don't want, but a job that you're experienced in at this point. A job that makes you good money to where you can step outside of that. That is the key. Because I always knew what I wanted to do, but I never had steps in place. If your dad told you, yo, do this, and you do it, and you get to that place where you can make your money, you could start the clock. Start the clock. I bet I'm making this much money right now. I got these skills. I'm going to save this much money and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm off on this day. If I take my resources from here, I could go here. Like, you could get your shit going. Opposed to niggas like us who was just told to be happy, who working bullshit jobs, no direction, fucking just trying to figure it out, working off of hope and emotion. It's like you had direction, and I don't know if you truly appreciate it the way I feel you should, because I didn't experience the other aspects of it that make you resent your father. I didn't experience my mother walking away. Like, I've never heard a bad story about my mom at all. When I go back to my hood, everybody knew my mom. Growing up, everybody was like, yo, Moo Moo, yo, Moo. Like, my nickname, whatever, because my mom used to call me that.
Mm.
There was never a bad thing about that. And my dad, as far as I know, didn't walk away by choice. It was just the law. Like, he got caught up multiple times. But that leads into other shit. But you had your father there, and he was successful. He had negatives to him that was out of his control. At a certain point in your adult life, you could go to therapy and work through your issues. He might have never seen it. He might have never seen it as necessary, because maybe his dad got him to a place where he's financially good. So even if I hate my mother, I'm never gonna get work on that. I'm never gonna go see a therapist because at least I'm making money. That's not the right way to go about it either. But looking at the influences are important. I feel like people undermine it, and it's just something we need to talk about. Like, and that's really much all I have to say. Like, do y'all have anything else y'all want to add to that topic?
Come to realize, you guys have way more of a like opinionated towards this topic
Yeah.
because you guys lived through it, kind of similar.
Yeah.
You know, because I've always been. I have had people tell me like, yo, like it's different because you have both your parents.
Yeah.
And then some people, there's other things that kids go through because at that point it's not just them not being there, or it's just there, but then they get divorced, and then that's what becomes them not being there.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not even because they initially intended. Shit happens. People get divorces, and you lose a parent.
Yeah.
And then you go through the whole back and forth, or you live through not having a dad, or you live through not having a mom. And in your case, you've lost more relatives in that process.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, and it sucks.
It do.
But we do things today that reflect of what's happened in our past.
Mm-hmm.
No matter whether we want to forget it, no matter whether we want to make it a part of our future lives, we go by it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you wish they were there. You think their childhood would have been better? But, I mean...
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say much about it more.
Yeah.
It's pretty much solid said.
See, me, it was just like a lot of self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I honestly felt like I had my dad around. He was around for the most part.
Yeah.
He didn't live with us, but it's like me and him were the same.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because I was trying to be like that nigga.
Yeah.
Because
Was
I
it ever
wanted
bad?
him around more.
Was your relationship ever bad with your dad?
Nah.
No.
Because I feel like we actually think the same.
So
Yeah.
at least there's always
So
that.
it's like
Because that's a plus.
me and him will have our conversations. Because he'll just tell stories about bullshit that's
Mhm.
hilarious. And it's just like, I'll sit there and listen to this shit.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to my siblings like, all this nigga want to do is tell
Yeah.
stories. And it's like, and then he brings it back
Mhm.
to an important point.
Yeah. That shit was game.
And it's like it was game.
Shit
And
was
I
game.
was always able to peep it.
Mm-hmm.
We like the same music. We in the car talking about Scarface. It was just like
Yep.
business shit. Like, I feel like it was, but like just because he wasn't around. Because like he was also very strict. Like
Yeah.
like me. Like when he blow up type
Yeah.
shit. Nah, it's Chris, don't give a fuck type shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's like when we was cool, we was cool.
Mhm.
So it's just like I'm trying to keep it cool. If he don't gotta know this, that, and the third, he don't gotta know that type shit.
I feel you.
My mom was gonna tell him.
Then I mean, and I think the key is, regardless of whether your parents were together or not, you had a good example.
Yeah.
Like you had a good example and a good balance. Even though it wasn't perfect, you could look back and
But I also
appreciate
feel
it.
like I also inherited his flaws.
Let's get something down real quick before the whole next one.
Yeah.
What do you guys think your life would be right now if you guys had your fathers completely in your lives, both parents?
Our fathers or
Well,
good fathers.
Well, I say that because technically speaking, you both had your mothers the whole time.
Well, I've had mother figures.
Mother figures. I'm sorry.
I had my grandmother first half, my aunt second
Right.
half.
So more importantly, in your case, how would you feel like if you was raised today by your parents, and in your case, by your dad and your mom always being together?
You want to start, Swan?
Okay. Honestly, for me, it's the connection that me and my dad have, like a connection, cause we're just so the same.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if my
More,
dad was
more
in
or
my
less
life,
explain, like, like what
I
you think
might
you
have
do.
become a police officer or some shit.
Right now.
Cause he told me straight up,
Damn.
he was like, "Yo, you need to become a police officer." Cause it's like you got all these white boys in the hood. You know, like, yo, I know you want to be an
Bro, I
asshole with
second
it.
that shit.
He
Continue.
was like, they the only people with a pension, $50,000,
Mhm.
$50,000, $60,000 a year.
More than the average black
you
man
make your
makes in
bread.
America.
You make your bread, go out, get your car, you get your crib,
Mhm.
you buy this crib, rent that shit out. We be talking about the real estate shit.
Real
It's
shit.
like it'd be a solid plan, but it's like,
Niggas don't want to be cops.
yeah.
Well, I agree. Continue though. Continue.
I got mad niggerish
Mhm.
as opposed to he's niggerish, and it's like, but some of the shit he wouldn't be, that shit wouldn't be popping.
Yeah.
He would have held it down.
Yeah, he was.
I've probably been more disciplined.
He was a real nigga in the real sense, not like a real street nigga, but like just
Yeah.
a real nigga.
Yeah.
Like, and I can respect that. And honestly, we gonna have. I feel like that might be the next episode because I have a whole plan or idea for how we can make policing better, and specifically within
That was
having
one of his
people
ways.
having people from the community police their community. But that's gonna be a side note.
Yeah.
But were you done on your side?
I was like, yeah, I would have had more of that discipline.
I can respect that.
Do you feel like it's too late?
No, I feel like, yeah, I'm at the cusp
Mhm.
of fucking it up. It's like I just been so close, but it's just the follow through
Because at
and
this
the
point,
planning
at this
Yeah.
point,
and
you know,
yo, stay on my shit
Hmm.
every day.
yeah.
It's like I'm getting that now.
Yeah.
And
Focus
it's
on
like
your purpose.
I see why I'm so late with it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that's what it is.
That's the angering part. Seeing why you're so late. But what were you saying, Mio?
I was gonna say, like, what's yours?
For me, I honestly, ooh, this is something I never said before. Well, I mean, or at least never said on camera before. I have a personal opinion of having kids and doing things. I believe in abortion. I believe in having kids when you're ready. Listen, I believe in having kids when you're ready and not a moment before.
Whoa. Okay.
Having kids when you're prepared and not a moment before. Understanding that there are options. There are condoms. There are vasectomies. There are birth control. There are hysterectomies. There are all these different things that we can do to avoid children. Now, when people get pregnant, couples get pregnant, and they say, "Yeah, we're pregnant. We're just having a baby." Yeah, wait, hold up, hold up. Do you have insurance? Like, do you have health insurance first? You got a car. Do you got car insurance? Do you own a home? Like, do you have a stable apartment? What's your job like? Can you afford to, like, stay home now? Do you have a partner? Are y'all married? Like,
A lot of
all,
people
all
can't
these.
answer all that.
No, but I know they can't. And those people that can't should not give birth. Like, I truly believe that. Like, I personally want to have kids someday. Not before I'm ready. Not before I am ready. I want to be married.
So can I ask you something?
The
But
same.
I want to be married. What? Yeah, I'm sorry.
So, at what age do you feel like it won't matter?
I
Because
be a popping ass.
There's
dad,
no
I already
age.
know.
There's no particular age. My family was older. I mean, my mother and father were a little bit older when they had me.
no, I mean like, at what age do you feel like? Because you're not gonna tell me that at 50 when you finally, if you ever get to that point,
not
and
like
have
that.
kids,
Not like that. No.
You know, like
See, I feel like it really does come down to the individual and how you focus on your purpose and how you get to where you're at. Ideally, I know where I want to be and I know my long-term goals. How I'm going to get there, I'm still figuring that out, but the beginning steps, I'm just starting to see a bit clearer. I want to get to a place to where I own my own home that I built on land that I purchased.
Facts.
I have health insurance, home insurance, life insurance. I want to know that if I die, I'm giving my kid a decent policy. I'm giving my wife a decent policy to where they can handle shit.
My pops to this day telling me to take life insurance out on both on him and his
Yeah.
mom.
And that right there, it's
On
important.
my mom.
And I'm just, shout out to Jumping Jack Tax. They like go look them up. Like support. He a dude from Philly. I believe he from Philly. And his wife went to Middletown High School.
Mm.
Yeah, but they got a tax company and he going crazy on social media. Like it's like corny in a funny way. Like I like it. Cuz like it's good, great marketing, right? So, and some might consider him a blue pill nigga the way he goes about shit, and I've seen certain shit to where I'm like, damn. But off of what I see, I respect it. You know what I mean? He was talking about life insurance, and he's a tax guy. That's his whole thing. You could do your taxes, and he just got to where like you can open your own Jumpin' Jack Taxes. It's franchisable now.
Okay.
So within that, he was talking about you can open a life insurance policy and then take a loan out on it.
Oh shit. Okay. Oh shit. I understand the implications of that.
You could get a $1 million life insurance policy
and take a loan out
and
on
then
that.
borrow $300,000.
Yes, like yo, that is next level.
Shit like that.
That's
We-
next
we
level.
We don't think about how that works and what we can do with that and all these different things. A lot of people are having children before they are prepared. it's like I want to know that I'm good, my girl's good,
Mm-hmm.
our home is good, our life is stable. Like if I'm talking to my girl, I'm like, yo, so all right, we getting to the point where we about to have kids. So are you ready to like deal with this? Like this is gonna be a toll on your body. Are you ready? All right, cool. We have the baby. Like, are you like prepared for this responsibility? Like, we're both gonna be up hella late. Like, which one of us is gonna focus on being a primary breadwinner? Ideally, it'll be me. But still, like, if me and my girl are in different places, we're gonna have that conversation.
It'd be me.
Right? But no, I'm saying, I ideally, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Would y'all
Ideally,
do that
yes.
because y'all want to or because y'all have to?
No, I
I would
feel
want
like
to.
fuck a want because yes, I want to have all that shit in place, but I feel like we need to have all that shit in place. Too many people are having children when they are not ready,
Facts.
and that fucks us up. And I feel like you know, it's one of the quotes that is both true and detrimental.
What?
They say it takes a village to raise a child.
I believe that.
I believe it's true and also detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's true because to simply believe that a mother and father is enough and nobody else in the world is going to influence your child is dumb. That being said, a lot of people hear that and they feel like, hey, even though I don't have a significant other,
Yeah.
it could be anything. Maybe the girl has the baby and then the guy leaves and he's a deadbeat. Or maybe he doesn't leave, but maybe he's just a piece of shit. Maybe the guy wants the kid, the girl doesn't. So, like, I literally just heard a story about a guy who had a baby with somebody. I think it was like South Carolina or North Carolina, something like that. The girl didn't want to have the baby, so she put the baby up for adoption, even though the father wanted his kid. So the father spent a year fighting to get his child back. The child got adopted by a family in California or some shit like that. So he had to
Yo,
fight through the courts in order to get his child
that's
back.
disrespectful.
It is, but that's outside of his control. But within that situation, and that's for law, and that's for a bunch of
Fuck
other
that.
fucked up reasons. But it's not as simple as just a dude walking
God
away from a
forbid.
woman.
Yeah, that's what it's going to have to be.
You can't control all this type of shit. But a lot of people will have a relationship that is not where they're happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Have a sexual relationship where they don't trust their partner to have a kid with. And then you have this baby and you got to deal with this shit. And then they find comfort in the fact that they have brothers, sisters, friends, godparents. They're like, hey, you're not alone. We're going to help you. Don't worry about it. You don't have to get an abortion. You don't have to give this child up for adoption. We'll be there for you. That is both helpful and detrimental. Why? Because you take away the personal responsibility. At the end of the day, you are the one having this kid. No matter how many people tell you, yeah, I'll babysit, yeah, I'll be there for you. What if they got work? What if they have their own child? Are you not gonna be there for your kid now? Are you just gonna accept that you had a kid and you did not guarantee shit? Like that's important. I feel like when you should not have a child until you have certain things guaranteed. Like
Yeah.
we're going off of good faith too many times.
I strongly believe that sometimes people, if they are not prepared to have a child,
Yeah.
and they have a child,
Yeah.
they're pretty much like, how do I say this? All they're gonna do is just be raised different, strictly on having. No, I forgot what I was gonna say.
All right. If I were to assume, you would mean that if you have a child and you don't necessarily have that perfect family structure, they're going to be raised different because of that. And when you grow up in that,
I'm sorry about the basically the kids just not having, like only having their parents and no one else, right? Is that what you were saying?
no, because what I'm saying is a lot of parents who have kids, or a lot of parents, like for example, right? If you were to get into a relationship, let's say you're in a relationship with a woman and she decides that she's having a baby, right? or she decides she tells you she's pregnant. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but she tells you that she's pregnant, and you know the baby is yours, right?
Yeah.
Now, most men are gonna want to be a good provider before having children. Most men are gonna
Yeah.
want to be able to handle shit. Like, it's like if we were to simplify it, right? I feel like every man wants to be a king because they don't understand the responsibilities of it, but we want to be kings. And
It's
most,
a power thing.
but
I
not.
feel
I don't
like-
think it's that simple.
It's
I
always a
don't think it's
power
that.
thing.
It's a life thing, right? Because
Yes.
for example, right?
Yeah, for
Le-
the life of power.
No, not power. Because you gotta think about it, right? If you were to live in a forest and it was just you and your wife, right?
Okay.
You're not necessarily thinking about other people if you've never seen other people. All you know is you and your wife. Now, if you eat coconuts and kill pigs for a living, right? You want to kill the most amount of pigs you can kill, assuming you have refrigeration and all that shit. We're not back then. Because you want to secure shit for your family. I want to go out and kill a pig because my kids is hungry, my
I feel
wife
like
is
there's
hungry.
power though.
It's not power.
There's
hold
power
on.
in that.
Hold on. Listen. Power comes from dynamic, right? So you could have power within your relationship.
Yeah.
But when we step outside of the relationship and talk about society, that's where power really comes in, right? So if it's just me and my wife, I'm not necessarily thinking about power because I'm fulfilling that masculine role. I'm more empowered within that masculine role naturally.
Could you say
Yeah.
you're a very traditional person?
And I feel like
I'm
power,
not very
honestly, is
traditional, but
natural.
I'm traditional
for
to a
men.
point. It is, but the point I'm trying to get to is
Yeah.
that the dynamic comes in. So let's say I have my wife, and like I said,
Yeah.
I know that if I kill one pig a day, or one pig a day, if I kill one pig however big it is, a pig could last a while. So I know I could feed my family for a certain amount of time. But if I could kill 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, I would, because that secures me for a longer amount of time. That's my want. You know what I mean? If I lift 10 pounds today, I want to be able to lift 11 tomorrow. You know, just because I want to push as a man. Like that's what we want to
Power.
do. That's not, listen.
Okay.
Power comes in when you and your wife come to my island.
Are we going there?
No, because that is where the power, because it's not, within your dynamic, yes, there is power. I don't want to
I
undermine
think like,
that word.
but territory. It's
But-
just like
no,
I
but-
have
but that's what I
power
meant
to
by-
catch my own food.
But the dynamic though, right?
Okay.
Because look, if I live on this island and I'm trying to secure shit for my family, I'm not thinking about power. I'm thinking about my family.
Yeah.
But then once your family comes to this island, as a man, we're competitive. Or as men, we're competitive. That's when power comes into play. Now I'm thinking, all right, well, it's only so many pigs on this island. I got to make sure I got more pigs for my family. Oh, okay,
Nah.
well, you in my spot. Like, you said territory.
I guess the seeking of power is what drives you to security. I guess like power causes it. Power causes
but why do you
security.
start? I feel like power
Because
could be the
it's-
end, but not the
it's like,
beginning. Not the
even
driving
when you
force.
just want territory, it's just like, okay, this I know all the back routes, whatever. Blah, 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 blah. It's all for the safety of the family, but there's power in that.
There is power in it, but is power the drive? Because like when you said, like, I want this territory, you want the territory because you know what it gives you, and power is a consequence of what you get and what you attain. But you're not necessarily thinking about it from a simple source of power. You're thinking about it at individual steps. Like, for example, if you want to rob somebody, you know that a gun gives you power. So you want that, not necessarily because you just want a gun, but the gun gives you a tool. But then, in the same essence, DMX used to rob people with a dog, no gun. That dog gave him power in that situation. Like, power is relative to what you want to attain. And I think we want to attain things because of our masculine nature. And we need power. We need certain things, but
God
we attain
damn.
power to get it.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand, bro. Okay, say that. God
Like-
damn.
Like, that's just my personal
Sad game.
perspective on it. Yeah, real shit. Cause it's like if I could walk up to you and be like, yo, give me your food.
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
All I was like, yo, give me your food. I want your food. You gonna tell me no?
Yeah.
Well, okay, then I'll punch you in the face. if you can't take that punch, I took your food.
I feel like niggas lost that responsibility in themselves. That's why niggas so weak today.
I agree, but that's because society has got way more civilized.
Fuck
So
civilization. It's your responsibility.
We can't say that.
It's your responsibility to be able to protect yourself, worst
Mhm.
case scenario.
I agree.
But you don't because you feel like you can say whatever the fuck you want, call the police, or do whole shit.
That's
It's just
real.
like everything that's wrong is just whole shit because niggas aren't responsible for their lives. If you're responsible for your life, everybody would walk with respect. Cause
Yeah.
I know what I'm about to
but at
punch
the
a nigga
same
in the
time,
face.
though, it would be the old west.
Nah, I feel like
Nah,
it
bro,
wouldn't.
it would have to be because that's what that was at the time. Like yes, technically there was law to a point, but you walk into a town, you got one fucking sheriff, a couple deputies, and everybody got guns. Everybody got like literally no cameras, no surveillance, no nothing.
I guess my perspective is bigger. It's like I feel
Yeah.
like with me, it's like everybody will walk with respect because
You would
I
hope
guess
so.
because yeah, and it's like that's I guess I feel like I would hope so, but even if niggas don't, I'm
Okay.
powerful enough
Alright.
to check them.
So let's take it deeper, right?
Yes,
In the same way that we talked about it and separating the whole idea of what you want to attain versus the power that you earn from attaining shit, right?
yes,
You have niggas that carry guns, so they have power, but they're not strong enough to use it.
yeah.
Niggas carry guns for bluffs a lot of the time, but never pull a shit. Think about how many people open carry, never shot their gun once. Keep a gun in their pocket. You
And it's
can't
like
see that shit. Got
I
mad bodies.
acknowledge that, and I just my power is physical. It's
It-
like
but
I wanna,
your power is mental. It's first.
yeah,
Because you could
Okay.
be a nigga with no physical strength and carry a gun, but you're willing to use. Think about the whole
Yes.
idea of these niggas in the streets being like, yo, these niggas got husky as shit just to get hit with this nine.
but
That
it's
was
like
a meme.
as a real nigga, I feel like real niggas respect real niggas. I never have a problem with real niggas.
But
It's
that's
like
a
that's
whole
why I
nother
respect
level
my
to it,
pop because my ice old heads niggas will stop and cut the music like yo, who is your pop?
Mhm.
It's just like it's just the respect. It's just
Yeah.
like they recognize real.
That's real.
That's my perspective
But
on it.
like I agree with that. Oh, continue.
Nah, I'm done. That's my perspective. Real recognize real.
See, I agree with that, but I feel like it's a lot of bullshit that comes with that because you literally have a lot of dudes that misconstrued power. And I feel like that's a whole nother conversation for the most part because as men, we want to attain things.
Mhm.
And when we separate us from society, just talking about nature, again, we doing it for us, for our family, and for all these different reasons. But then when we come across other men, we naturally compete with one another. That's where power comes into play. So if you think about it from a simple level as just power first, then yeah, you want to be like stronger than your woman and shit like that. Some might argue that's insecurity to a point, whatever, right? Nature. But then when we take it further, and then if you come to my island, you come to my island. Now I'm like, okay, I'm killing a pig a day or a pig every however often. I got enough food. Now these dudes come here, they gonna try to take my food from my family.
Motivation.
Motivation. That takes it to the next level.
That
But then,
drive to be the best.
but that's a supernatural level because within society, a lot of shit is changed. So now it's like, yo, you disrespected me. You called me a name.
I feel like this when it comes to
Like
niggas being
that type of
overly
shit.
emotional.
I can agree with that too. Yeah.
I feel like niggas be overly emotional. Like we're different.
And that's where I'll end this. Anything else?
No, enough said.
That's it.
Okay.
Peace, niggas.
So this is
Thank you,
another
guys.
one. This the big cap, no bullshit. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think.
Subscribe.
If you want argue, argue. If you want appreciate, appreciate.
Thank you.